do we have guides and angels that assist us? And apparently we have a whole team. You know, there are a plethora of angels, of guardians, of guides that are with us all the time. What we think are our thoughts may not always be our thoughts, because our guides are so close to us that they can whisper, they can plant, not plant in the sense of overriding our free will and our conscious choice, but they can give us inspiration, they can give us ideas, and apparently they constantly are. There are different dimensions in the afterlife. There's not just the physical dimension, and then all of a sudden, boom, we're in the highest realm of the afterlife. There's actually a lot. There are at least 3 different astral realms, and then there are all kinds of other realms between what we might ultimately call heaven.
This is Beyond with Heather Tesh, where we examine near-death experiences and life itself, hopefully making this life a little better.
Welcome back, everybody. My guest today is Peter Alessandria. Hello, Peter, once again.
Hi, Heather.
Peter, I was just telling you when we had a little bit of a break that I just love meeting people like you. You are so authentic and you're just such a kind person, and you're really trying to put out goodness into the world. And you've made this beautiful movie, and it's called What Every Soul Knows. And for those of you that are just joining us and you haven't watched part 1, please go back at some point and watch that, because Peter, you just spoke so eloquently about some of the messages that you are trying to get out to people. And it really, you do a very nice job of that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Heather. I feel very passionate about the subject, but I really want to present it in a way that's helpful, in a way that's uplifting, in a way that's positive and empowering for people. So, I do speak to a lot of near-death experiencers in the film, which has been great. It's been wonderful. But it's been very important for me to focus on what they learned from the experience and how that experience changed them for the better. Because I've yet to meet somebody who's had an NDE that came back less than when they had that experience. Everybody seems to be transformed by it, and some people radically transformed by it. Completely changes their lives, changes their priorities in life. So I want to do that justice by, presenting stories that I feel are empowering, that are uplifting in a way that's empowering and uplifting for the audience, and to hopefully move us all a little closer to our oneness, our connectedness with each other, and to the idea that at the basis of all of this is love, and that's who and what we are, and that's the ultimate way to connect with other people is through love, and a way to express love in the physical plane is through kindness. I always say, you don't need to meditate for 4 hours a day. You don't even need to meditate for 4 minutes a day if you can practice kindness. Just be as kind as you can to as many people as you can for as long as you can, including yourself. And that, to me, is the fastest way to get to that place of spiritual awakening and awareness.
It really is a practice, because like anything, when you practice kindness, you get better at it. It becomes a bigger part of your life. And I will echo what you said, that these people are transformed. And I also think by hearing these stories, we are also transformed. It has transformed my life. It makes me want to be a better person. It makes me want to be a kinder person. And I do want to go over some of the questions that you discussed in your movie, and there are so many of them. But you also had some touching spiritual experiences that you shared. And I'd love to share one of those clips with my audience.
Yeah, sounds good. Let me just set it up for the audience. So the film is basically composed of 2 parts, aside from the introduction and the epilogue, which is a lot of my story. The body of the film has the Q&A, the questions that we've been discussing and that you saw in the first clip. And as I said, I have about 35 of those questions, and those were my questions, and there's a list. So you can go to the website It's very simple. Everysoulknows.com. Okay. 3 words all together. Every Soul Knows. You can see the questions there that I asked. And a lot of these questions are the questions that most people have in terms of, what's the purpose of life? Is there, what is the soul? Is there, are we punished for our sins? What is karma? Do we have contracts or agreements with other souls? Are there soul groups or soul families? So these are all the questions I had. And the first part of the film, or not the first part, but part of the body of the film is going through those questions with about 40 different people and getting everybody's answers and then compiling that all in a way for you guys to see. And then the second aspect or the second element are the first-person accounts. So I have a bunch of first-person accounts of near-death experiences or other spiritually transformative experiences. The clip you're about to see now is about a visitation by a guardian angel. I actually have a few of those. And this is a woman who's actually here local to me in New Jersey. I just want to say really quickly, it's amazing how I found the people, or the people in the film found me. There's definitely guided by some higher power in all of this. Sylvia's, who you're going to meet in a minute, she's local. Her and her mom are in this clip. And so it's a bunch of those first-person accounts as well. So I figure my thought was it was great to have those questions answered, but there's also a lot of value in hearing people's stories. So it's both of that.
My name is Sylvia Trinidad, and I live in Miami.
And I'm Sylvia Rossi. I'm her daughter. And I'm a psychic medium for the last 30 or so years here in New Jersey.
When I woke up at the hospital that had given birth, I realized that I'm not in a maternity ward. I am somewhere different, that I found out it was a surgical ward. So all I did was cry, and I thought that, actually crying and screaming, and I thought that my daughter had died because I could not figure out, why she was not next to me, why I was not in a maternity ward. While that was happening, a nurse came in my room, and she had the hat of that they used, the nurses, and she was all dressed in white, very peaceful person. And she came to my bed and held my hand and told me, everything is going to be fine. Your daughter is going to leave. I'm sorry. I'm going back to remember. And she handed me a rosary, and she said, if you have to pray this every day, and I know that your daughter is going to live. She looked totally different from the other nurses in the hospital. She didn't look the rest. And also something very interesting is that I never saw her again. It was only one time. What is interesting about all of this, and I know that this had to be an angel, is that when I felt better and I was ready to leave the hospital, I wanted to return that rosary to the lady that had given it. So I still was in bed, but my mother went to the nursing station, and they told her that no one had ever worked there with that description that I was giving. Furthermore, she went down, to the personnel office, and she asked whether there was someone, that resembled the person that had been in my room, and they told her no. And I asked the doctor when he came in, he says, I don't know which nurse you're talking about. I have never met her. Well, when I was ready to leave the hospital, I knew that something very special, and I have experienced something that definitely was incredible in my life. I felt blessed because I started getting news that my daughter was getting better. And I left the hospital, and I kept the rosary because, as I said before, no one knew who this lady was. I pray the rosary every night. And Sylvia, after 3 months, came out of the hospital, and all the nurses said, you know, she was a miracle. Everybody thought that she was a miracle, including the doctor. He said, I didn't have any hopes, but look at her. The doctor that operated on my daughter told me later on that she was the first baby with that condition that they have been able to save their life.
So after I left the hospital, I made a full recovery. And this was quite the miracle for the time. And I, from that point on, would lead a normal life. In my late 20s, I was getting more and more into the metaphysical world and learning and reading books. And I had learned about this psychic artist. And I went to the session, and she prayed before and then went about the business of making a piece of art. And she finished, and then afterwards kind of returned to me and said, when I was born, that my soul decided to come in and inhabit that body because that body was not going to survive, but that there was an angel who came to not only me, but my family, who intervened on my behalf and helped in the process of my healing. She said that it was the strength of that angel that helped me survive. By any account, it sounds to me, and I do believe that it was a legitimate miracle.
Peter, what I love about that clip is many of us have had times when we felt very alone. And it shows that there's a lot going on behind the scenes in this heavenly realm that we're just not aware of.
Yeah, another part of the Q&A is of the questions that I asked is, do we have guides and angels that assist us? And apparently we have a whole team. You know, there are a plethora of angels, of guardians, of guides that are with us all the time. And they're here to help. Now, here's the thing. We talk about this. You didn't see this question, but we talk about the idea that, number one, you have to ask for the help. Number two, you have to be willing to accept the help. And number three, you have to understand that they're not going to fix the guides and the angels are not here to fix our lives, because we have this thing called free will. And the great thing about free will is that we can do whatever we want. The not so great thing about free will is we have to deal with the consequences of those choices. So they're not going to magically fix our lives, but with the understanding that we do have help, that we can ask for guidance, which is the whole idea of a guide, of a spirit guide, is to ask for guidance and direction. Often it will not come in the form of words per se. Be some kind of a sign from the universe that we see around us, things like that. Although sometimes we do get, one of the people that I asked about this, he said, what we think are our thoughts may not always be our thoughts, because our guides are so close to us that they can whisper, they can plant, not plant in the sense of overriding our free will and our conscious choice, but they can give us inspiration, they can give us ideas, and apparently they constantly are. But we have to be willing to ask, and we have to be willing to accept, because a lot of times we'll see a sign and then we'll just say, oh, that was just a coincidence. It doesn't mean anything. So again, my hope is that, this gives people comfort, it gives people hope, it gives people solace, and again, I think, if we begin to see, wow, maybe I'm not alone, maybe this is not a dog-eat-dog universe, survival of the fittest, maybe that's just kind of the way it is in our physical experience based on our preconceived ideas, perhaps, of who and what we are, we can begin to shift all of that, and there are people who many of us have met in our lives who are what they call earth angels. And these are people who come to serve, to be of service. They're not here for their own growth, their own evolution. They're here to serve humanity, to be part of certainly now, this whole idea that there's an awakening that's happening, a raising of consciousness on the planet. So yeah, and again, a couple of the people, when they talk about their NDEs, when they go back to the other side and they meet their guides, they talk about what an amazing experience it is to reconnect with a guide that, and at first they don't even recognize who that person is, who that soul is, you know? So it's, and that's because of the veil of forgetting, which is another question that we talk about in the film, this whole idea that we have to forget in order to remember, you know? So yeah, I could go on and on and on, but that's what I got on that.
Well, I love that you go on and on, because these are the questions that people are asking, and you have oodles of them that are in your movie. One of the things you talk about is, where is heaven? So, Peter, where is heaven?
You know, this is an interesting question. So a lot of the NDEers will come back and they'll talk about an experience of what they call heaven. And often they call it home. All right, you hear that a lot at the IONS conference. People talk about, I went home, in the sense that this is not our true home. This experience that we're having now in the physical, we're not from here, right? This is a side trip or an adventure or whatever you want, a vacation. Although it's not much of a vacation for many people, but the idea is that we're not from here, that there is this place. And I asked them, where is heaven? Now, I got a lot of different responses to that. Most people would say that heaven is not really a place per se, although I do have an interview with Lindsay Sharman. I'm not sure if you know Lindsay or not. Lindsay gives an account of an out-of-body experience, astral travel, where she actually felt like she did go to the center of the universe, and she calls that heaven. And it seemed to be a physical place. Which is interesting, because if any of your viewers are familiar with the Urantia book, the Urantia book actually talks about there is a place, quote unquote, place that is the center of everything, and that's heaven. But most of the people will talk about heaven as a state of being, a state of consciousness or awareness. And again, I'm a big fan of A Course in Miracles. You know, Course in Miracles says heaven is the awareness of perfect oneness. And an experience of perfect oneness with the knowledge that there is nothing else. So, and the other thing I'm finding out too is there are different dimensions in the afterlife. There's not just the physical dimension, and then all of a sudden, boom, we're in the highest realm of the afterlife. There's actually a lot. There are at least 3 different astral realms, and then there are all kinds of other realms between what we might ultimately call heaven. The thing that distinguishes a lot of the other realms from the physical realm is that they're very thought responsive. And there is also a different experience of time, in the sense that in many cases, time doesn't really, we don't experience time there the way we experience it here. So I guess there's not one answer to heaven. I did come away with many people saying, you know, we can experience heaven here on earth, but it starts, it's in our heart. It's in our beingness, you know, when we're willing to forgive other people, when we are willing to live from a place of compassion and kindness and helping each other, then we actually can create heaven on earth. And we don't have to go to another dimension or another realm, because we'll be able to experience our connectedness. We'll be able to experience that sense of oneness, which defines who and what we really are. And we're engulfed, if you will, in the sense of love, unconditional love. So you don't have to leave the planet to experience that, but we do have to change our mind about a lot of things. And that's one of my goals with this film, is to begin to have that shift in consciousness that will allow that experience of heaven while we're still here on earth.
Peter, people do have different answers to various questions. How do you bring that all together in your mind, that one near-death experiencer will experience this and another one will experience this?
One of the things that we hear a lot from near-death experiences and from a lot of the experiencers and a lot of the literature is that we will have the experience that most suits our growth, our evolution, and conforms to our predominant thoughts and beliefs about things. So this explains why some people have what they call a negative NDE experience, at least initially. It also explains why there's so many different descriptions of the afterlife. You know, some people find themselves in a black void, and then they see a tunnel. There's a bright light. They go towards the light. They come through the light, and they come out into a lot of people describe it as a garden, vibrant colors, you know, otherworldly things. Not everybody has that experience, and a lot of it, I think, is kind of tailored to that soul's journey, that soul's evolution, and what will best serve that soul in that transition. So, but here's the thing, and I suggest this at the beginning of the film, and I'll suggest it to anybody now who's watching this. Don't take my word for anything. Don't take anybody's word for anything. Don't take Heather's word. I love you, Heather. You do a great job. But, you know, don't take anybody's word for anything in life, anything of importance at least. Instead, watch my film, watch Heather's interviews, her podcast, but take all of that and use that as a springboard to discover your own truth, your own inner wisdom, your own highest truth, because ultimately that's all that matters. And we're also responsible then for what we do with that information. You know, it's like, you know, if I believe we're all one, and I really honestly believe that, then I have to figure out a way to live that way while I still think I'm here in this body. And so again, I talked to a lot of people in the film. I asked them, you know, what do you do when that guy cuts you off on the highway, or that person cuts in front of you at the checkout counter, at the checkout line in the grocery store? How do you apply oneness then? Not to mention when your ex-spouse is suing you for custody, or your business partner embezzled all your funds, you know, how do we apply it then? Right? So come to your own truth, your own conclusion, and then whatever that is, live it. Live it, apply that in your life. And because that's when you really find out what you believe, you know, what you believe is true. It's when it's one thing to sit around and pontificate and chat. It's another thing when you're confronted with a life challenge. All right, we're all one. I believe that forgiveness is the path home. I believe that, you know, I'm an eternal spiritual being and nobody can really hurt who or what I truly am. You know, if I really believe those things, I have to figure out how to begin to apply that while I still think I'm here. And I talk about this a lot in my book. It's even more important than actually doing that is forgiving myself when I don't do that. So when I react the old way, when I lash out at somebody who cut me off in traffic, or when I do something that I consider unevolved, that's the moment that I get to forgive myself. To love, to forgive myself. And if I've done something harmful to another person, to make amends to that person, to make things right with them. But, you know, that's the challenge of all of this, you know, and so don't take my word for this. Don't take anybody's word for anything in life. Discover your own truth, your own inner wisdom, and then live that.
I think that's such an important message, and we need to see what resonates with us. And I would never want people listening to listen to one person and think that's exactly how it is. I think it's when you hear the multitude of stories that you really can form a sense of what this is all about. And that's what's neat about your movie, because you do talk to so many people, and it really gives us a strong sense of what this is all about, what our purpose is, you know, who is God? Why do we have this veil of forgetting? So I think that's great that you cover those things. Why do we have to forget this beautiful place that we've come from and come here?
So first things first, we don't have to do anything. Everything is by choice. So the choice to forget, which is actually what it is all part of what makes this experience real and meaningful. If it would be like going to a film and knowing the ending to, you know, if it's a mystery film or something like that, knowing what happens at the end, or taking the final exam and knowing all the answers ahead of time. Some people would say that's great and all of that, but you'd be missing out on the experience. The other thing that the veil of forgetting, this idea of spiritual amnesia does, is it makes all of our choices in the moment genuine choices. where we get to find out who we think we are. We get to find out what we're made of in those challenging situations. It's like this. When we go to the movies and we watch a film, we know that what we're seeing on that screen is not real, right? We know it's an illusion. But what is real in that experience? It's all the feelings that we feel. It's all the reactions that we have, right? Those emotions, we cry, we laugh, a good film, which is why they call it a movie, by the way, because people want to be moved by that experience. So we have these very real experiences in what is otherwise a complete and total fabrication and illusion, right? So that's the best analogy I can think of this experience. So in the grand scheme, there is a greater reality. There is an ultimate reality. And in the sense that this experience right now is temporary, this experience will eventually change into something else, will fade, will morph into something else. It's not permanent. But there's a real and meaningful benefit for our soul to experience this.
Peter, we don't have a lot of time, but I just want to mention this really quick. When I was doing research, just to prepare for this interview, I came across your book and I started listening to it. And it really was helpful. And so I just wanted to mention that quickly.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Heather. That book is my story about overcoming. So the title again of the book is Be Bigger Than You Think You Are, Overcoming Our Self-Imposed Limits to Have the Life We Want. So my book is a lot about self-love, self-forgiveness. It's the only way I'm doing what I'm doing now. I would have talked myself out of this a long time ago if I hadn't healed a lot of that. And I want to say those voices still come up, still challenge me. In fact, they came up this morning before this interview. So I just want to be honest with people that I've still got a lot of work to do myself, but my life is very different as a result. And that book has helped a lot of people. It's set up as a workbook. So at the end of each chapter, there are exercises that you can do. There's also 90 hours of videos on my YouTube channel for the book and my website from workshops that I did on the book. All available for free. There's no subscriptions. And the other thing I'll say too, real quick, I know we're wrapping up, Heather. On the film website, everysoulknows.com, all 55 interviews are available. This is the full interview with everybody that I interviewed for the film, available for free. There's no subscriptions. In fact, I don't even have ads. I cut off the YouTube ads, the mid-roll ads on those videos. So you can see, number one, everybody's voice is heard because a lot of people traveled at great distance at their own expense to come and be part of this film. And I can't fit 55 hours into one movie. So everybody's in the film, but not the full interview, obviously. So you can watch their full interview for free on the film's website. And that's been one of the best things so far. It's only been up for a month. We have a lot of subscribers now, and every one of the comments, I haven't gotten one negative comment, and people seem to be so grateful just for the information, just for the awareness that is coming through. That's been the best part for me so far, is to read those comments. The last thing I'll say real quick is the film will be done it will be released early next year. My initial plan is to do some in-person screenings around the country. And then eventually, probably by next spring or next summer, it'll be available widely on all the streaming services, YouTube, and all of that.
I can't wait. And I'm also really excited when you say you've put up these complete interviews. I'm going to be checking that out. I think that's such a great idea. And it's really generous of you to do that.
Very important that it's more important for me than anything else that people have access to the information. So I didn't want to do it in a way where, people had to pay for it. It's there, it's available. I want to make I'm financing the film myself. So eventually I want to make my money back from the film. But in terms of these interviews, I wanted it to be as accessible for people as possible.
Is there any other contact information that you want to share? And by the way, I will have links to all of this in the description. You just click on that little more button and that'll open up the description for everybody.
Yeah, the best way to reach me if you're interested in finding out more about my book is go to bebiggertoday.com, and there's a contact form there that you can fill out. And then if you're interested in the film, It's the film website is everysoulknows.com. There's a contact form there. And then my company, I actually am hoping that this film will start a whole new career for me, in the sense that I have a bunch of other film projects that I feel are spiritually uplifting, spiritually informative projects that I want to work on over the next few years. That company is called Mindful Entertainment, and the website for that is mindfulentertainment.us. .com. There's a whole story about the .com. Don't go to .com. Mindfulentertainment.us. And you can see some of the other projects I'm working on, and then there's also a contact form there.
And that's something we really need. We have a lot of movies out there, I don't know, that aren't so great in terms of uplifting us spiritually. So I'm so glad there are filmmakers like you that are bringing things out. Peter, again, thank you so much for being here. I have so enjoyed getting to know you as a person. You are such a kind soul, and I know that you really want to spread this message of love and kindness, which are things that I also think are so important. So I just thank you so much for coming here today.
Yeah, and thank you, Heather, for all that you do. You know, I know you've had your own challenges getting out there and doing what you do, and you do a great job. And it's been wonderful, to get to know you as well. I enjoyed our time together at the conference, and I look forward to spending more time with you down the road.
Peter, normally at the end, I ask people to share some parting words, but instead this time, I want to go out with another clip from your movie.
Who are you? Why are you here? What if life is eternal and there is no death? What if you're one with everyone and everything? What if difficult situations are meant to help you grow? What if you chose certain people and events to be in your life before you were born? What if you've already been forgiven for your mistakes? And what if you forgot all this before you came, so you could experience the joy of remembering who you really are?
As I said in part one, Peter is a wonderful person, and he hopes this movie is going to help people, it's going to heal people, and also help and also heal just our world at large. These are messages, I think, that need to go out there. We've got a lot of negative movies, a lot of other things with social media that kind of bombard us, and these are really positive messages, as well as just answering so many questions. I would love to hear what you thought about our conversation. So please, in the comments, add your thoughts. It really does help me, by the way, when you comment. And if you just put "made it," that is plenty. It lets me know you made it to the end. I really appreciate that too. And if you can give it a like, I love that as well. Subscribe if you haven't. Hit the alert button, that little bell, if you want to get notified with more episodes. New episodes come out every Tuesday and Thursday, and you can always find all of my episodes in the playlist, and I always have a link to that in the description. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching today. I am so grateful for each and every one of you. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for joining me on Beyond with Heather Tesh. Please add comments and questions you'd like future guests to answer. Also, if you liked what you heard, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. That'll help keep this podcast going. You can also go to Beyond with Heather Tesh to look for more episodes.